Okay, now we're looking at the AP Statistics 2021 First Administration free response number 2. As usual, if there are any corrections to be made or any mistakes I made, I will put them in the description below, so make sure you check those out. And please leave a comment if you do notice anything that I did wrong or that you have any questions about. Researchers will conduct a year-long investigation of walking and cholesterol levels in adults. They will select a random sample of 100 adults from the target population to participate as subjects in the study. One aspect of the study is to record the number of miles each subject walks per day. The researcher is deciding whether to have the subjects wear an activity tracker to record their data, or to have subjects keep a daily journal of miles they walk each day. Describe what bias could be introduced by keeping the daily journal instead of wearing the activity tracker. Well, one thing is you may feel a little bit of shame if you're self-reporting, because you might be like, well, I didn't walk very much, so I don't really want to say. Or you'd be more inclined to say the days that you do walk a lot. So you may be more inclined. So one example is you may be more inclined to report when you did walk a lot, versus reporting less likely to report when you didn't walk. So, I don't know, there might be like a response bias there, basically. I might say something to that effect. That would be anything reasonable of why someone who's keeping a journal might affect the results. Could be. You could also maybe talk about anything that's plausible. You could maybe talk about you're less likely to be accurate. You may overestimate the amount of miles you walked if you record a journal, or you may underestimate because you may not count. You're just walking around the house or just walking to the car or walking in a grocery. You may undercount that. So those are all possible scenarios. As long as you have something reasonable about like why someone who's keeping a journal may give you a less accurate or a bias in their result compared to someone who was using activity tracker. Okay, during the course of the study, the subjects will have their cholesterol levels measured each month by a doctor. The researchers will perform a significance test at the end of the study to determine whether the average cholesterol level for the subjects who walk fewer miles each day is greater than those who walk more miles each day. Selecting a random sample creates a reasonable representative sample of the target population. Explain the benefit of using a representative sample from the population. Interesting. Because the benefit of using a representative sample is any benefits or results can be extrapolated to the population of interest. If you don't do a representative sample, then there's no way you can't make good conclusions about what the population might be. And that's what you're ultimately interested in. You're actually not that interested in the study themselves. You're not saying, like, are these particular people healthier or not? You want to know if walking in general would apply to the entire population. So we're trying to make generalizations about the entire population based on our sample, and the sample needs to be representative in order to make that generalization. So you could write more. I will probably write more words than this, but my handwriting is not that nice when I'm writing fast, and I'm just going to give you a description of the kinds of things that I would put in there. Suppose the researchers conduct the test and find a statistically significant result. Would it be valid to claim that increased walking causes a decrease in average cholesterol levels for adults in the target population? Explain your reasoning. So we find a statistically significant result. What you have to ask yourself is this an experiment or not? If it is a controlled experiment, you're allowed to conclude that there's a causation result. If it is an observational study, then you can only indicate that there's some kind of correlation, which hints at a causation effect, but you cannot conclude that definitively. Okay? So because we are not randomly telling people you walk a lot and you walk less, it is sort of self-selecting, it is impossible to conclude that just walking alone would be a cause for this, to make a conclusion, because this is not an experiment. This is an observational study. An experiment, like I said, would require you to say these people who are randomly selected must walk more, and these people must walk less. Okay, so no, this is an observational study. We can only conclude a correlation, not causation, between walking and lower cholesterol levels. Now, what else might you want to say in here that I'm not going to write because, again, I said my handwriting is not super great. You may want to include why an example of a confounding variable for an observational study. For example, people who walk more might eat healthier, right? It's possible that if you're walking a lot and you've decided to take your health more seriously, you eat healthier. And maybe the eating healthier part is what's causing it. But in our data, we just say people walk more, have a lower cholesterol level. But because it's not experimentation, there could be other factors that are actually making that effect. And I might add that as an example of why we can't, just to firmly clear in the reader's mind that you understand why an observational study might have a confounding variable, or there could be other factors, not just a direct causation between the two.